this is time for free your mind and your soul. Yo, half the story has never been told. Ladies, you got to demand what you want, and what we want is respect, right? Yo, just sit up on the track, I know so you have to deal with it right. Freedom every time for the sisters. Check this. Watch this.
Here we go now. Listen, if I'm boom boom rule, I be the ruler like Slick Rick. Get with this quick witted Adidas wearing chick. Papa got a brand new bag. Mama got a brand new Jag. Or go tag. I ain't no old hag. I represent not only in the kitchen, in the bedroom, but also in the boardroom. So give me more room. Deny my opportunity. You in jeopardy. Yo, set me free. Don't hinder me. Let me be.
I'm fighting for freedom. I got the heat in case you need 'em. Straight soldier. Ain't nobody told ya. Hold up on them lies. I know your games and your plans.
Hi everybody, welcome to the Book Slam Extra. I am your host Jules. My camera's a little bit wonky. Hang on. Oh, there you go. Hello, I hope you have had a wonderful Christmas break, holiday, or spending time with family, whatever it is if you've been doing. My week has been lovely. Just eating lots of food and spent time with family, which has been amazing. Tonight we are going to talk about on theme topics to do with festivals and rituals. And we've got two guest authors, and we also have Reese, and we'll have Adam as well. So I'm very excited to hear from everybody what their thoughts are in terms of rituals. But I thought it'd be quite an interesting topic, considering it is the middle between Christmas and New Year. So Happy New Year, Happy Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever you do. Okay, so one of the things that I was going to tell you about is I've been working this week on a new trailer for my second book. It's in a work in progress. It's still being developed at the moment, but at some point it'll be ready to share with you guys. So I thought that'd be quite nice. If you do want to add anything, any comments, there is actually a live chat bar which gets live streamed through YouTube at the same time as us obviously being on. So having an interaction with us is always cool. So I think what we'll do is I will just introduce myself very briefly, and then I'm going to invite everybody on so you can see and meet everybody. And if you do have any questions, then by all means put them in the chat. And we will do our best to answer them or talk about them or whatever we can do. So I'm Jules. I am an author. I write science fiction and dark fantasy. I have 4 books that have been published, and I'm in the process of writing 3 more. I've got 2 series. One is like a dark fantasy realm, which kind of touches on recovery from trauma and mental health and stuff like that. And then the other one kind of akin to mental health and trauma, but it's aimed more at young children. And it's about a dog and a worry monster and their unlikely friendship that they form and how they end up, helping other people. I also obviously do this, and I also am a publisher. And I'm very excited because I've got a few publishing contracts with me at the moment, and we're working through them. And I'm really looking forward to when they actually do get released. And obviously we'll keep you posted as that happens. We are also running a competition. So I will tell you a bit more in depth about that a bit later. Just trying to think. Oh, also I do a Discord as well. So if you are a writer or an author and you're looking for a space that's safe, away from critiques about your work and your ideas, a place to share your ideas with others and sort of have work in progress. We've got some amazing beta readers on there. And the people on there are just amazing. So if you are interested, you can message one of us and we will send you a link. And that's my dog making an appearance. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to invite my co-hosts on. That's my other dog. Just decided to enter the space as well. I'm going to invite my co-hosts on, and then once they've introduced themselves, we'll invite the guest authors on. So welcome to you, Reese, and welcome, Adam. Hello. How are you doing?
Great.
Good. Oh, you're very quiet, Adam. Hang on, let me see if I can turn my volume up a little bit.
Can you hear me? Hello, hello, hello.
I can. Hello. Yeah.
Checking,
Hello,
checking.
I can hear you.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Hi, Reese.
Pardon? Oh, hi, Reese. Sorry,
Hi,
I thought
Reese.
you said cooties, and I was like, what? Because a new word you just made up. That's cool. Did you both have a good break? Did you take some time off?
I mean, my life is full of writing, so I was doing this. So, you know, it was great.
Yeah, I know the feeling. I was standing in line at a pharmacy earlier, and because the queues are going out the door at the moment in our chemist because everyone's striking and everything else. And I have my one on my phone, so I was literally just standing there writing whilst I was in the queue, which was quite
Nice.
fun.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I'm sure the people behind me thought, well, silly woman on her phone all the time, you know.
Let them think what they want.
I am not bothered. So did you do anything nice? Did you see your family? Or did you spend any time with friends? Did you eat loads of food? Did you go anywhere? Apart from writing, just kind of stayed at home, just chilled? Reese can't hear you. You're like in silent mode. Reese is doing that. Reese is talking, but no one can hear her. Oh,
Let me tell you why. Because my mute button is on the computer, not on the StreamYard. I'm just.
It's a little bit fiddly. You have to kind of get used to the different buttons. Yeah.
I'm just being weird today, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, I went to go visit my grandmother, and of course, just like Jules is tapping away while she's in line. I did not have to drive, so I was sitting in the passenger seat, tapping away on my.
Was it grandma driving? Was it someone else driving?
No, my dad actually did. So
your dad was driving. So maybe he was looking at you, going, "She's always on her phone."
It's like, really, what are you doing? Always on that phone. I'm like, no, I'm actually writing.
I'm working.
This is work. Exactly.
Yeah, this is work. That's it. Yeah. So like whenever I have to do some writing, you know, and someone's like, they need me for something, which is quite frequent. I'm like, oh, I'm busy. I can't. No, I'm sorry. My brain. I need to write this down before it goes.
Exactly.
I'm constantly stopping people mid-conversation for that particular reason.
Yeah. Now, do you want to both introduce yourself? No, it is absolutely. I think it's the writer's life, isn't it? Yeah. And we've talked about it lots of times, and it's quite an interesting topic to keep coming back to because we kind of. I think it's that creative enclave that you end up being part of. Quite often, the enclave tends to be in your own brain, but you know.
This is true.
Like a cocoon within a cave that's kind of like blocked off somewhere. Yeah. Yeah, it's quite good. I always like watching really scary stuff, and I listen to scary stuff before I go to sleep, and I have the most amazing dreams because I can lucid dream. So yeah, they're cool. It's very inspiring. Anyway, let's introduce you both. So let's have ladies first, then, shall we, Adam? Reese, would you care to introduce yourself?
Of course. I am Reese, aka Reese the Storyteller. I am an author of adult fiction / erotica / romance poetry. Also am working on book 2 of my trap series. So the pot, one on the way. Hopefully I will be releasing the cover soon, so keep an eye out for that, and I'll also be dropping my updated website on the 1st.
Nice. You have to keep us posted and updated about that. And I saw somewhere on this system that there's a trailer somewhere there as well, but
yes,
we could maybe have a trailer session next week if you like. Adam, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hello, I'm Adam. I write dark fantasy and light fantasy. I have 2 major books that I'm excited about right now. One I'm publishing with Jules' publishing company. That'll probably be out at sometime in 2024, like a year's time maybe. So that'll be exciting.
Oh, you were going to say next year, and I was about to go. Oh my god.
2024.
Yeah, no,
4 years time, not next year as in 2023.
Yeah. Honestly, I was just like, oh, okay.
Please don't give Jules a heart attack on the show, Adam.
No.
Not
I said I spoke correctly. 2024, that's the plan. And so that's my high fantasy, massive 600-page novel that is primarily focused on celebrating characters, especially queer characters, and it's got a lot of erotica in it, and it's sort of all over the place, and I love that. And in preparation for the release of that book with Jules' company in a full grand total of a year plus his time in that amount of time, I have released my own smaller sort of dark fantasy horror nightmare book that just came out on Amazon a week ago, and I'm really excited about that. It's called the Mantis variant. And it's just dystopian future horribleness, and it was so much fun to write, and that way people can actually read some of my work and be like, ooh, look at his work, and then this giant book will come out and be like, ooh, maybe I want to read this thing that's a little bit more intimidating. So that's me. Whee! Oh, and all my characters are queer. Every single character in all my books is queer. They all are, and that's really important. That's important to me. That's an important part of my storytelling. So yeah, that's it.
I must say I'm very excited about the journey. So in terms of like start to finish, it's quite exciting and hard work, but it's good. It's good fun. And so yeah, I'm really genuinely looking forward to like the end product on a shelf somewhere. That's the goal.
Yes.
the journey will be fun, but it'll be exciting to get there. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
and then that's the start of an entire new journey. Yeah, so
absolutely is. And can I just say, working with both of you two has just been absolutely amazing. You've been wonderful co-hosts and wonderful friends. So just to put it out there,
it's been a wonderful year. Yeah, and the whole podcast
it really
grown.
has.
Yeah, seriously.
It has. Isn't it interesting how you just kind of like meet people randomly through different connections, and then they suddenly become very important in your life?
Yes.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I love it. I love it.
Connections.
I know. So I thought, like I said in the intro, I thought we would talk today about rituals and festivals. I kind of left it fairly bland in terms of like specifying what kind of rituals and what kind of festivals, because like we celebrate Christmas, but not from a religious point of view in my family. So we tend to have the Christmas tree and like some presents and the food and family, and that's about it. There's no other sort of religious links there. But I'm obviously aware that not every family celebrates it like that, and some people don't celebrate it at all. And all of that is okay. And I think it's really important that we kind of acknowledge that festivals don't have to mean something religious. It can be something that is anything from the way that someone has a ritualized routine in skincare, for example, every night, the way they look after their weapons, the way that they, get themselves ready for a battle or with sex or whatever. So I thought we could have a little bit of a dive into that and talk about how we embed those in our stories, and what elements of importance that they place on our characters and how our characters respond to them.
That's so funny, because you mentioned that, and I've been thinking about it all day, and I was like, okay, so what am I going to prepare? I was like, okay, so I have two scenes where my characters go to like a farmer's market. I think that's what she's talking about. That's not at all what you were talking about. I'm good with it. I'm fluid. We can spin with it. I'm ready.
It's funny that you say that though, because I'm like, now I'm thinking about it too, and I'm like, oh wait, I think I know exactly where I will go with this.
I thought it would be a nice one to sort of round the year off, because obviously our next one is going to be in 2023, isn't it? Next week. So so it's going to be really cool to be able to talk about how the festivals that our characters experience change them, shape them, how they live by them, things like that. And we all have rituals in our books, just not necessarily written out in a sort of like format or anything. All right, okay, so who would you like to go first? And you don't have to read from your book if you don't want to, but if you have a bit you want to read, then that's absolutely fine as well. Or do you want me to go first?
I'm like, I know where it is. I don't know if I got to the chapter yet.
Oh, that's fine.
Did I make it?
That's all right. Do you want me to go first then?
Sure. Yeah, that'll give me a second to find it.
So, my bit is now you know you're saying that in chapters. Now I've got to scroll down to it. Hang on a second. I wasn't expecting to go first, you see. So you know, hang on a second.
We're all so prepared.
I know, right?
I know.
This is
I know.
awful. We're normally better than this.
Welcome to live show. I know. It's just like, where is it? What am I doing?
And I'm like,
okay,
and if not,
so
I found it. So if you're still looking, I found mine.
go for it, Reese. No, you go for it, Reese. You go for it.
So for this particular scene, it's funny we call it rituals, but it's a scene where Jasmine's getting ready to go out to the club, and it's this thing that she does, and it's funny because I remember even when I was younger and I would go hanging out with my friends, getting ready to go, I'd turn my music on and I'm dancing around while I'm getting dressed, and there's just little things that you do that you don't even realize you constantly do those things, depending on what type of situation it is, or just like you said, morning routines, things like that. So I just found this kind of funny, but yeah, this was a pretty good little scene. So this is actually from Jasmine toward the beginning of the book, so you get a chance to learn a little bit about her.
Nice. So I'm gonna just leave you on the screen, Reese. So if you introduce
Okay.
the book again, and we will disappear.
Okay, dope. Well, I will be reading from my first novel, Trapped. A scene from one of the four main characters, which is Jasmine. Saturday nights have always been my favorite night of the week. It was the one time of day I could let go and just be free, and this night was no exception. I walked out of the bathroom in my favorite robe, a gift from Steph for Christmas. She decided to get all of us matching satin robes with our names embroidered on the front. I smiled a little, thinking that joining this band of misfits just might have been one of the best ideas I've ever had. I don't open up to anyone easily, especially females. I've watched too many fights over some bullshit that was started over jealousy, rumors, or some dude that was never worth the hassle. I only watched in the wings, letting the foolishness blow by while I did my thing on the low. Spending time with them that first semester showed me there just might be a few real people in the world. I sat at my vanity and started applying my makeup with practiced hands. When I was done, I smiled at my reflection, checking my teeth for I can't talk today. I smiled at my reflection, checking my teeth for lipstick smudges. Satisfied with what I saw, I removed my robe and tossed it on the bed, standing naked in the middle of my bedroom. I swear if it weren't illegal, I'd be naked all the time. Maybe I'll move to a nudist area at some point. Nah, that's a little too much, even for me. I tugged on a white sleeveless top with a front tie that showed off my flat stomach and a tight black skirt with a slit that rolled high up my left thigh. Next, the hair. I freed my tresses from my scarf and styled the front of my hair to fall over my left eye, leaving the rest to cascade over my bare shoulders. After topping off the look with silver hoops and bangles, I strapped my sandals on and danced around the room for a bit to get a feel for the whole outfit. Yeah, I was ready. I grabbed my wristlet, phone, keys, and gave myself one last look in the mirror. All right, now, I said to my reflection, let's get into some trouble. Jazz, I thought you said you'd be here at 11. A male voice called to me as I walked up to the front of the metro. That was Ty. We met in high school. We met at a high school dance a few years back when he tried his best to run game on me. Back then, Ty thought that his muscular body, bald head, and dimpled smile. Let's try that line again. Back then, Ty thought that with his muscular body, bald head, and dimpled smile, every girl on the planet was his for the taking. He was fine, don't get me wrong, but his arrogance was a major turnoff. His rap was tragic, mainly because he didn't have to work hard to grab the attention of the girls he usually approached. His poor attempts made me laugh, so I took him under my wing and molded him into the smooth talker he was today. I guess you could say he's been my partner in crime ever since. I rolled my eyes as I stopped in front of him. Ty knew I hated getting to the club early, so I wasn't sure who had annoyed him before I got there, but he'd be all right. Either way, I wasn't letting him ruin my night. I have to make an entrance. My fans expect nothing less. He shook his head and laughed. You play too much. Who's here tonight? I asked, glancing at the block long line of people standing outside. Your favorite DJ? For sure. Let's go. Ty stepped to the side, and I led the way to the front of the line. I nodded to the bouncer, and he removed the rope to let us by. After snagging our wristbands, we dapped off the people at the door and walked across the threshold into the swell of the bass. The club was packed as always, with 3 rooms of competing DJs blasting everything from techno to Zydeco. Ty and I moved to the farthest room where DJ Rowe was spinning all the R&B, bounce, and hip-hop hits. As soon as I was in his line of vision, he raised his hand and then switched to the track of my favorite Eve song, Who's That Girl? I blew him a kiss as I passed by. Some familiar eyes lingered in my direction, some hungry, some envious, as Ty and I moved toward the bar. The song had announced to the villagers that their queen had arrived. Now pause there. Oh, you're on mute, Jules.
Oh, there we go.
Back.
That was really good. That was really good, Reese. Your writing's really good.
Yes, it was.
Thank you.
Yeah. So
I'd be naked all the time if I. Yeah, girl, I love it.
Jasmine is my wild child character, so she is out the box. There is no filter, and I love that because she can do and say whatever she wants, but she learns it's going to get her in trouble at some point. So she's got to grow from that. But I mean, look, late teenage years, early 20s, yeah, she's pretty much just flying by the seat of her pants.
I was going to ask, how old is the character? Yeah.
At this particular point in the story, yeah, she's about 18, 19. Because it starts off in college. It's a decade long stretch for the first book. So They meet in college, and you get a chance to follow them through college, and then of course through their early career life and their friendship blooming over the time. So it's fun to watch, to see how they grow and change throughout the book.
And not to get too personal, but does that set of like get ready rituals mirror yours much? I know you mentioned dancing around a little bit, but is that?
Yes, somewhat. I mean, I kind of took a little bit of that from there, but it's fun because I mean, like I said, I look before I even got on here, I was running around. I'm like, okay, let me go make sure my hair is not looking all crazy, and I'm standing in the bathroom, and I got my earbuds in, and I'm dancing to the music. So I mean,
Yep, perfect. Perfection.
Look, it's hyping yourself up to get ready for the party. So
it is, yeah, and that is definitely a big ritual, isn't it? You know, and when you're kind of getting ready to go out, or you're ready to have someone come to the house for whatever reason, you want to look your best, or you want to look in a particular way, and so just that essence of getting ready becomes part of your sort of, ritual. So. Yeah, I really see that. And it makes the character seem so much more believable as well, and much more, nuanced and an actual real life person, as opposed to just a 2D caricature that you've written in a page. Exactly. Now, I'm going to invite, we've got a couple of people in the wings waiting. We actually have Melanie here, which is awesome. And we've also got Jem, who is also waiting, and so they've both been very patient, and so I'm going to bring them to the stream. So ready your that what is it? What is it called? Batten the hatches? Is that what it's called?
Ali oxen free.
Hi everyone.
Hello.
Look at Melanie over there holding my book. Hey,
I was reading with you. I'm trying to tell you. They tell her.
Awesome.
We ready. You don't have to get ready when you stay ready.
That part.
What do you guys think about the ritual that Reese is reading?
I love Reese's read. I'm sorry, I didn't know if it was my turn or I'm just.
Oh no, I'm open floor. So Jen, you'll get used
I think I'm her biggest fan.
No, it's fine. We're very kind of laid back here. It's nice to have you both there. It's lovely. And so we're very laid back here. It's very chill. So You can join in the chat as you choose. And if you have something to say,
why don't you both?
yeah, we can introduce them as well. Yeah, for sure. I don't know. I spoke over you then. Sorry. Go on, Adam.
Well, I was just saying, why don't you both introduce yourselves one at a time and say what you thought about the ritual thing and your own work or Reese's reading or anything. Yeah, we'd love that.
Okay, I guess I'll jump in first. My name is Melanie Johnson, also known as The Voice, and I don't know if I'm a regular. I'm like a cousin to the family. I just jump in whenever I can, and I was driving from the movies. I actually thought about you, Adam, and you, Jules. I went to see Avatar, and it just reminded me so much of your characters in your book, and I'm like, ooh, I'm so inspired. But I jumped on as soon as I got here. And I love Reese's read. I always love her read, but her characters are so full of life and vibrance. And it's always like when she's reading, I'm there, I'm listening, but I'm also seeing the characters doing what they're doing. Like, girl, please. I'd be like, girl, for real? So when she's reading, she don't know what kind of expression I'm having on my face, but we look, I got my drink. We just sitting here drinking.
Yes.
Awesome.
Does the ritual that that what Bruce was reading, does it kind of sound familiar to you? Is that something that you can resonate with? Does it resonate with you, I should say?
Well, being that I've never been to a club, I think we talked about that last week.
We'll change that. Don't worry.
It's something that I've heard, and it's very prominent in my circle of friends and things that they do. But it's not something that I've done before. But yeah, I don't know. It might be on my horizon because I got a rebirth.
It sounds like it to be. Yeah. And Jem, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for inviting me on.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and where folks can get your work?
Right, I'm Jem Fell. I'm a poet and alleged novelist, but it's a work in progress. That started a long time ago. Next year is the 25th anniversary of me writing the first word, and I'm nearly halfway through. So my aim for next year is to actually do more of it, so it gets more than halfway through. I'm not setting an aim of finishing it because that's just provocative and sets me up for failing. But to make some progress would be good.
Beautiful.
So, this year's been all about the poetry, and I set a target at the start of the year of doing 52 poems through the year, and the idea was to sort of explore my place in the world as part of that, and I ended up writing 106 poems.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's 106 poems I'm happy with, plus all the fragments of nonsense that are just left in notebooks. So, and sometime in January, then I'm putting out that collection of 106 poems with sort of associated thoughts in them about their gestation and so on. And I share all of that across Instagram and Twitter because I haunt those like nobody's business. Theoretically, they'll be on TikTok as well because I'm going to do a whole series of readings and some short form things about my writing process. So when I encounter a problem with a character or something which I love about sort of Trevor the Border Collie as he's assaulting. I've got in my novel, I've got this wonderful character who's he's Francis Heron, and he lives out in the marshes, and I don't know, he's about 60, 65, and he has a thing for Grindr and men in leather on motorbikes. And Trevor is Border Collie does enjoy assaulting them as they're leaving. So little bits like that I'm intending to put little films up about, but I haven't got around to it yet because good intentions are my friend.
Well, we want you to write this book. We want you to bring it on. Yes, please.
Yeah.
Nine queer main characters.
Wow, that's so cool. isn't it interesting how many I feel like this is a really safe space for people, because every week when we do this, we always have at least one author on who has at least one queer character within their story at some point, or they also kind of fit into that narrative as well. And I think it's um I think it's so cool that this platform has allowed a whole community of people to be able to actually access that and to be able to feel safe to do so.
It's
Um,
purely
so
accidental. Sorry, it's purely accidental. I didn't mean it. When I started, I had a
I love
line.
that.
I had a line from the song "Puff the Magic Dragon," and that's where I started from. I just extrapolated out, and then as characters came in, and then instead of just being this character and the protagonist, then suddenly there's 9 main characters. Then suddenly they, as they interact, you suddenly go, "Oh, that one as well. Oh, really? Okay, yeah."
We were talking a
They have
few
a
weeks
mind of their
ago.
own.
Yeah, that's it. We were talking a few weeks ago about how our stories lead us. Although we actually do hold the cards in terms of we make them up, but they do tend to lead us down some interesting pathways.
Yeah.
Um, so tell us a little bit about rituals in your work. Do you have any?
I was thinking about it, and I was thinking, do I have those? I've got a shelved work in progress fantasy novel, which I haven't touched for years, which does have them. And the reason I shelved it is because I went into a whole world building sort of dungeon and started coming up with religions, languages, mythology, history going back 500 years. And so I've now got 2 folders full of history and mythology, but I haven't got any novel.
That's a great place to start. That's awesome. That is
Kinda
awesome.
You would not believe the maps I've got. The maps I've got of cities, towns, villages, dungeons. It's amazing. No novel.
I love
Poetry
it.
wise,
I love it. Do you draw those, or do you do those online? Because I know there's some.
I draw them all.
Wow.
Cool.
For the it's on Instagram, I think. It's certainly on Twitter, but probably thousands of posts ago. There's a map of the place where my novel I am actually working on is, because it helps me as well. Because if Francis or one of his guests is leaving and turns left down the lane, you don't want them to then pass the wrong pub. You want them to be going past the right pub, or that sort of thing. And you look at it and go, well, is it feasible that as Charlie's walking home, he's going to get drenched by the storm coming in off the sea? Oh no, he'd have to walk completely the wrong direction. So it keeps me grounded by having those maps. And I've done a series of drawings of key buildings. So there's a pub, a queer pub, and which I've drawn, and characters as well. I've done character sketches, the pub, Esther's little cottage, and all of those things. So I do enjoy the creativity. It's proper world building. You inhabit them in your mind, don't you? You live in that world, and you can picture those things so much. And so I find it really useful and interesting. It's a diversion. But
it certainly is not.
Definitely.
The ritual thing. When I was listening to you read, I was thinking rituals. But actually, a whole sequence of my poetry is about going out. And there's sort of, and most recent reading I did, there's a poetry thing I do every month. And the most recent reading I did them in order. So there's sort of 6 poems which tell the story of a night out. And it could easily be, I will be out on Saturday night for New Year's, and I will probably go through pretty much this exact same procedure. So I have a dancing gin ritual on a Saturday night.
Nice.
Versified. And I will be wearing my amazing knee-length sparkling pink boots when I do it on Saturday.
That's so cool.
Yes.
I love it. Oh, that's brilliant. In terms of your poetry, what sort of like made you choose the theme that you did? Because that's really interesting. That because like, I know that we all choose the sort of like genre that we want to write in because of the particular reasons, and the themes that we're writing about for particular reasons, etc. But what made you choose the theme that you did?
For this year, my original aim when I started thinking about this year and doing a whole sequence was there've been I sort of said I'm non-binary about 2.5 years ago, came to terms with all of those things and said all of those things publicly not very long ago. There's been quite a lot of pushback because I go to football in town, I do all of those, and I've had some entertaining interactions with people. And so I thought, well, the journey I've taken over the last 10 years, a decade ago, I was very not tactile. If you'd have come up and hugged me 10 years ago, I would have been, get off. And now I splurge everything. I'm just sort of, you want somebody to overshare? I'm your person.
Good. Yep.
Random person. Here's my life story. And that really wouldn't have been me 10 years ago. And the unlocking of that and the transformation of those things fascinated me. So I wanted to explore that in poetry. And then I sit on a Saturday afternoon in a cafe and I write, and I will see a person. I will imagine their life story. I will think of something which has happened to me that week, or I will have a memory of something that if that had happened to me 20 years ago, what would have been my reaction then? And so there's sliding doors moments. One of my frustrations as a writer, and this applies to short stories, novels, or poetry, is that so many people assume that you must be talking about yourself. And it is because the poem quite often includes I, then that automatically must be you, the poet. And you, the poet, are transferring ideas. You don't have to be the I in it. And that gets right up my nose because I'm not always the I, but I'm exploring something through the I.
Yeah.
And it was transformational for me. There's a poet called Sandra Lawrence, and I worked with her and Jacob Samler Rose 15 years ago now. And they're both amazing poets, and they forced me to put I into my work, which I'd always avoided. And the moment I got I in there, it freed me and made my work more accessible, more open, more warm, because I'd avoided using I for so long because it seemed to be threatening to me. So Sandra Lawrence and Jacob Samler Rose, amazing people.
It sounds like you've been through quite a beautiful evolution.
I think so. I'm 52 and I'm in the best place I've been.
It sounds like that. That's awesome. That's inspiring. Seriously. We want. I love that you're being you, and I think that a lot of us have a really difficult time doing that, and I truly do celebrate that. That's marvelous. I love it. My novel, the whole point of the novel is that my main character comes out as non-binary at the end. Spoiler, but that's the point. He's going through all these things, and he has a moment where he's like, somebody introduces him to that idea. This is how I live my life. This is how I present myself. This is who I am. And he's like, can I do that? Is that even possible? Do whatever you want. Be you. And that's basically the end of the book. And yeah, I love that. Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, 2-3 years ago, I wouldn't have been wearing those pink boots. That's part of it. And there are times when it's hard work. When you think, can I face? You're going to get pushback. You're going to get those things. Absolutely. But I think it's important you do it. And this is partly a whole. And I hate to have a lockdown moment, but I will have one. In the fact that before that, I didn't go out very much because other people didn't either. I'm 52. They all go, oh, well, let's have a quiet drink on Tuesday. And you go, no, I want to dance. I like dancing. I like dancing when I was 20. I like dancing now. And post-lockdown, I've gone, I'm going to do me, which includes pink boots. It includes dancing. It includes getting home at 4 o'clock in the morning, having drunk far too many gins and been distracted by princess bombs. That, and that will also inspire my writing. And it doesn't matter that I'm 52 and I'm wearing sparkly boots, or I've got eyeliner on, or if I've got the nail varnish. You know, that's who I want to be, and that's who I am. So, and I love when people stop me in the street and go, "What you're wearing? Love it." I'm there for that. You know, I grow 10 feet.
Wonderful. That's so wonderful.
That's awesome.
Maybe we can get you to read some poems after we invite. We've got another guest to bring on. We want to have Fozzie. But
we do. We have Fozzie as well. Let's bring Fozzie to the screen as well.
And then we'll do some reading.
Hi.
Hi guys.
Hi.
Thanks for
How are
joining
you?
us.
Here. I'm good.
Thank you for coming. Thank you. It's such a pleasure to say hello to you face to face, sort of.
Yes, I've heard so much about everybody here.
Oh, all good stuff, hopefully. It has been good stuff.
Oh, obviously. Except that one. We all know which one.
Fozzie
You
and I
know who you are.
So we're talking about rituals and festivals and sort of, you know, the way that people, you know, from really minor stuff, from like getting ready to you know, really big things. I'm interested to, you I know you've been listening, so you know, I'm interested to hear what you know, your thoughts are on that. And you've obviously heard them and what they've said. So yeah, what do you think, Fozzie? Or do you want to introduce yourself a little bit first rather than just saying hi? I think that's a good idea. Thanks, Adam.
Oh, thank
I'm
you.
glad, Adam, you keep me in check quite frequently.
Well, I'm Fozzie. I'm kind of a new writer. I've always told stories, and I've been a creative person, and I've done podcasting, and I've done stand-up comedy, and I've done a lot of things as a creative outlet. But I recently, within the last couple of years, got more into writing the stories that I would make up in my head, and my stories lean towards the macabre, the horrific, the supernatural, the terrifying, the monster. I love good monster stories, and oddly, the one that I'm working on very thematically, I should say, is all about a funeral. It's a brother and sister reconnecting for the funeral of their father. So it's about honoring the dead and that catharsis that comes with it, and reconnecting with family through a funeral, because we've all been there. We've all been to a funeral. It's a matter of like saying goodbye to a person, but also kind of like welcoming in this new version of yourself without that person in your life. So it's about death and it's about rebirth as well, and that's kind of what my excerpt is about today.
I would love to hear that, and I also, you know, Jem,
we look forward to hearing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jem, if you've got something that you would like to share with us as well, we would be lovely. You know, it'd be lovely to hear from that.
I have so many things I could share. It took me an hour earlier on to try and edit what I've got down to something that was vaguely manageable. Otherwise, we'd be here till midnight.
Excellent. So, I thought, you know, all of us could actually share a little bit from our books. We don't have to read massive amounts of work. I just thought it'd be really nice for us to share, because we've probably all got very different style of rituals within our works. I know that lots of us write within the fantasy realm and science fiction realm. So, you know, I'm looking forward to those, especially because that's my area. But you know, I love yours as well, Reese. Don't worry, it's okay. I have your book.
I won't take it personally, I promise.
It's just like my go-to area is science fiction and fantasy. But and obviously, Melanie, if you've got something you'd like to share with us as well, that would be amazing. I'd love that.
Okay.
So, Adam, would you care to go next? Would you like to be our next reader?
No, let's have our guests go. I think let's put Jem on the screen, and Jem can read a few poems, and then we'll come up and talk again, and then we'll put Fozzie and maybe Melanie, and if there's time at the end, I might read something. But no, that's fabulous. Let's hear what everybody else has got.
That's like a wonderful idea. So what we do then is we're all here in the background. So when you're on the screen on your own, you're not on your own. And I can actually see you, everyone. I've got cameras for everyone on my screen. So you're not alone, although it does feel like you are alone, because you're the one on the screen. But we'll put you full screen, and you can read whatever you want, and then we can talk about it as a group afterwards. And yeah, and you know, so tell us a little bit about yourself, Jem, and the bit that you're going to read to us today at the start when you get onto the full screen. And you literally just start reading when you're ready. You don't have to wait for us to say go or anything like that.
Okay.
All right.
Yep. I've just made a little sort of reorganization of my piles of paper in the light of earlier ritual, and I think I know where I'm doing.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right, so I'm going to dip everyone out of the screen, and it's going to be over to you.
I'm Jem, and I'm poet, occasional novelist in a not sort of way, all over Instagram, Twitter as Jem Fell Poetry. Come and find me. As we're on rituals and things, I thought, right, we'll transfer the ritual of a night out, and I do like a night out. Saturdays are my thing, so we'll take a sort of standard Saturday, and I did this live stand up a little while ago, which I think worked nicely. So I start off and I go out and I'm dressed up, but I go out on my own. So I start off with a quiet, gentle pint to try and acclimatize myself. And a little while ago, there was a very nice gentleman who came up to me and let me know something I was doing wrong. It's my legs. I sit wrong, apparently. So much language in legs, not the ones everlasting in fevered imaginings of cliche, but these ones, tucked inoffensively, I think, beneath the table, neatly heels together, functioning as legs do, supporting, balancing, sometimes perhaps making statements with skinny denim, Converse rainbows or glitter. Largely, these legs are heedless, ignorant of their apparent reckless provocation. For yes, 40 years of outrageous limbs, decades of blithe disregard for morality. In these limbs folds a binary affront, brazen offence, an incorrection, a fiendish threat to manliness, manhood. For, terrible to say, yes, I cross my legs, but wrong. Tucked over neatly at the knee, thigh to thigh, calf against shin, ankle ready to fidget in rhythm, an abomination. Rebuked, reprimanded, challenged, told, desist, cease your feminine posture, told at 7, you sit like a girl. Just saying, the passing acquaintance banters at the bar, you sit like a woman, no offence. Flexing as I sit again, gin before me, preparing to lift a foot, rebellion in the knees touching provocation. Just so much language in these legs. And that's sort of, so many people want to interrupt and tell me how to do things, and that's a theme of a lot of poetry from this year, 106 of them, and not all of these are tonight. Then we'll go on and
you can't hear me. I'm sorry. I just realised I was silent as well. I thought you finished reading, so I thought I'd just dip on because I didn't want you to put awkward on screen. But if you want to carry on and keep reading, go ahead.
I've got sort of that sequence of the night out, so I will.
That's so cool.
So
it's up to you.
Yep, I'm quite happy to carry on if you're happy for me to carry on.
I'm happy for you to carry on. Go ahead. I'll disappear again.
So yeah. So then I'll maybe play a game of pool within that, and this is one of those that actually happened because I like to extrapolate ideas, but this actually happened. Ball set, an explosion of frustration fades into the pint of solace. I step forth, gently chalking my cue, bending, gliding the smooth length through the crease soft between thumb and forefinger. Loosed, frustrated, I ruse, watching the oscillation of ball in pocket as, close in my ear, he murmurs, passing and gone, you should be on Grindr. And then we're on our way off to a pub. I like a pub. Off to the bar where I'm going to dance. And I will encounter somebody again. There's always one. There's people who stop me in the street and say, I love what you're wearing. And then there's others like this. I have no intention, not a single one, of ramming it down your throat. Honestly, I was simply minding my own business, having a little chat, just busy on a Saturday evening, doing that me thing in the chilly spring sun, when you jutted in angles, intruding with words dredged from 80s darkness. But seriously, I doubt so very much, so very, very much, if anyone's ever been tempted to ram it down at your throat, except perhaps your unsought thoughts. So there I am. I'm in Distilled Republic. I'm sitting on the edges there now. And I'm on my own. Everybody's starting to dance. It's filling up. It's midnight. And I was thinking the other day, I've spent a lifetime sitting on the edge, on the edge of a friendship group at school, at the edge of a few things at university, stand on the edge of. Recently discovered I rather love being in the middle of things. I love performing, I love being on stages, I love being centre of attention. It's a revelation at 52. So edging. A lifetime spent making virtue of edges, stood watching in comforting shadows, relishing the fringes from alcoves, watching the beautiful people in all their strange, terrifying confidence, leant on sweaty walls in fearful corners, building my acquaintance niche of skulking, gregarious isolation. And I stood in the dark of decades, yearning, fearing the movement of arms, disturbed by the thought of dance, hiding discomfort in dismissal. So shallow, my roll-neck cynicism, just so cool. And yet, brushed, pooling eyes hide a tap, a hidden twitch in stilled hips. Now, here I am, again, in strobe aloft on a wave of funk soul drum and bass grime. Now, though, I long to be there in the midst, the middle, glitter queening, dressed in gin. Now, yeah, absolutely I'll attention whore and proud. I've bid farewell to those edges. I'm going to skip those. Right, we've got two more, if that's all right, from the backgrounds. Dance floor. I'm in my element. Bounding in steps of two, in giggles of stumbles of a night alive through swing doors and sticky floors at the midnight moment, gin moment, the tequila moment, shots lined, a double of flushed faces, eyes turned, brushing to the intensity of colour, timeless, fleeting, ephemeral. In this moment, this lost moment, turning in a stumble of skin-tight arms, we're alive, you and me, in this glitter sheen of nothing, everything. We dance, oh, we dance, immune in thighs, in elbows, in rivulets of dreams, eyes held faster than shapes thrown in strobe. We dance as one, inside each other's skin, your gaze kisses mine, and we're alive, with knees bending, back thrown, rising on waves of rhythm, scented in the tonight. Fingers in fingers, eyelash tight, we are the night. The streets and stairs, stars and 4 a.m. curbs, we are the sparkling kiss of the dance floor. And finally, Sunday morning, I come home ridiculously late, early, however you'd like to see it. The birds are singing, the sun's coming up, there's and you've still got the sound of the night in your ears, and I dance along the streets, and I have to put my headphones in, and I cavort in the middle of the road, and I carry on the dancing. Sunday morning. Stumbling home in late night, almost dark. No, footsteps in the shadow of almost light, the sheen of dancing still smiling through us. On the weaving hill of privet sleep, arms stretching curbside reprise, ear ringing in still note imperfect recollection of hedonistic, pirouetting, heedless flirtation. And there you are, stretching across dawn's asphalt dance floor, to pull me cornerward in a giggle of discordant steps, tumbling in improvisation from curb to slab to wall, gate to sentinel lamppost firm on the brow. And in the waning of that lonely light, you take me from the floor, still my beating feet, and with curling fingers, tongues knowing all the moves, against the gate's rigid bars, we rehearse the ballad of Sunday morning. There we are, a night out, a ritual. And I will be doing the same on Saturday night.
Oh my God. Thank you for slaying it for us.
My pleasure. It's very kind of you. And I have so many others I could have done.
Oh, is Fozzie still with us? Where's he? Oh, we lost somebody.
You're muted.
Jules, you're muted.
I'm muted.
He's still muted.
No, Jules is.
Just
Oh my
Jules is
goodness. Sorry, I've got so many buttons I'm trying to work with at the moment. It's like, oh, I keep forgetting that I muted myself. Sorry, there in the background. So as soon as I see his camera switch on, I'll add him to the stream again. So yeah, by all means, carry on. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Go on.
No,
Go on, Adam.
let's talk about the poetry. Talk about it. Yeah.
Talk about my poetry.
I love the scene and how you went from one part to the next. I was visualizing it, and me being a little country girl, I was like, "Ooh, I want to be there. I want to see those sparkling boots." I mean, and the flavor that you started out with, it continued through each one of your pieces, and I loved it. And when you said that you were slaying Sunday morning, I don't know if I'm gonna do that, but I'm gonna try to do something similar.
It's unintentional. When I wrote these across a whole series of months separately.
Mhm.
And when I was trying to put together a sequence to perform, then I just went, "Oh, actually, I've got a story here."
Yeah.
And then the other collection, and I think I talked to you before about a quick fit one and some slightly more risque things at times, and those sort of fit a different mood, but they all link together. So when I've been putting the book together, I've got sort of 5 different sections because unknown to me, I've written under 5 different topics without really realizing it.
Wow.
Well, it really sounded like you did this all at one time. So that was amazing.
Thank you.
Well, and to have realized that you've got very specific themes, I think that means that these are very important things to you that either touch your heart or are things you need to express. I think that's marvelous. No, yeah, and who knows how those 5 may evolve into the future as you continue writing. Also,
yes. It would be interesting to go through when I get onto the novel whether those things start coming through in there as well. Whether that's something I notice in that as well. I will have to look when I start writing it.
That'll be exciting. Yes.
Very exciting. No, have you? I know you've written it. So, have you published it properly yet in terms of getting out to the public? Or are you still in the process of doing that, or whereabouts?
I've got a poem which I wrote last week, which needs to go in, and then it's all done. And so then I can sort of dispatch it into the ether, and it'll come back. So I'm hoping early in the new year there'll be, once I start heading out and doing performances again, I will have a little stack next to me.
Marvelous.
Sounds like it is time for pre-sales. Hey.
And speaking of performance, your delivery was fantastic. Your inflection, your energy. Everybody felt what you were talking about. We've all, to some degree, felt that bully feeling in, the dismissiveness of whatever. Yeah, somebody doesn't understand what we're about. No, awesome relating to people with your work. Really good.
This last year I've performed for the first time in 20 years. 20 years ago I used to perform when I lived up in Yorkshire. And then I was incredibly nervous and had to have 3 pints before I could speak. Now I may have 3 pints, but I don't need to speak. And I don't need it to speak. Now that confidence has come, and I think that I do think. I mean, without bringing, I do think I perform well.
I think it's so interesting that you say that too, Jim. And we were talking about this as far as different ideas that all of us have come up with our writing. You get to a place where you don't even think about anybody else's opinion of your particular topics that you want to write about. You just write. Yes. And it's that in and of itself is freeing. So I totally agree with you on that.
Yeah, when I was a younger writer, I very much wanted the validation of somebody else, and I felt I had to write in a style which somebody else did, and I tried so hard to write nature poems because proper poetry was about trees and graveyards and things like that, and daisies, and I tried so hard, and I just can't do it. I just look at it and go, yeah, it's a flower, it's very pretty, cool, and I love flowers, they're lovely, but they don't move me to words, and
Mhm.
and I think that's why it took me so long with the book as well. Is that to start with, I was trying to write somebody else's voice.
Mm.
This last year, most of my writing novel-wise has been going back over what I wrote before and rewriting it in confidence now,
Awesome.
and getting to know the characters. They're doing more. They are confident in themselves in a way they didn't used to be. And I think you're exactly right. It's you come to know yourself.
And that's what I was saying about you being inspiring. That you are living yourself, and I think that it's important for other further generations to have people to look up to. The limited amount of queer people or LGBTQ, etc. people who we had to look up to when I was a kid was so limited. I didn't have somebody writing queer poetry. Of course, there was no internet to help spread the good news of the world, but it's just what you're doing is going to inspire other people, and that's so important. I think that's marvelous. Yep.
I hope so. That's part of the reason why I'm doing more performance and why I want to do things on with small videos and things, is to try and reach that out. The internet can be horrendously foul at times, but being the optimist that I am, it's equally an amazingly democratizing thing. It joins voices together. There are so many voices, from some marginalized voices, queer voices, black voices, Asian voices, all sorts of different voices, which I would never have heard. I wouldn't have met them. It's challenged me and where I've been and things, and I've moved and I've changed and I've learned because I listen. But it's also meant that I can reach out to other people as well. And I think that at its best, I can talk to people in Mexico or in India or in Seattle or in New York or in Glasgow in a way that I couldn't have done before the internet. And I curate my feeds. I block people if they're idiots. I wouldn't sit with you in a bar if you're being a tosser. So why? I'm not inviting you into my Twitter feed. Thank you very much. Bugger off. Simple as. It's not an echo chamber. It's right now. You're not welcome at my table. But I love the internet because of the way in which it democratizes voices.
Plus, there's porn.
It forces the public.
Love that. We do love that.
It also forces traditional publishers and people to address the fact that they have to have marginalized voices as well. I don't think they would have done that without the internet. I think that it's a huge, powerful change.
Yep, you're absolutely right about that. Yep, the spread of information has been amazing through the internet. Yeah, and the connectivity that we have by being able to talk to each other and have these platforms, so wonderful. Yeah.
This wouldn't happen. This wouldn't happen without it. It couldn't happen.
No.
We're in 6 different places in the world right now. Never mind the people that are also watching and commenting over for social media and YouTube. I mean, there are people everywhere right now being part of this little community we've got going on. It's wild.
Yeah. It's amazing. We talk quite frequently, I think, on here about the connections that we make and how cool it is that we are able to build and foster really strong relationships with people that are thousands of miles away. So yeah, for sure. I just want to say your poetry reading was amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, as someone who when I first came on to this, when I first started, which was only on Clubhouse, wasn't on YouTube or anything else, I was terrified of speaking like publicly. And even now, I'm not a great reader, but you did amazingly.
It's slightly strange not having an audience, because it's just like that. That's slightly strange reading to myself. But,
That's why I thought I'd reassure you before I just made us all disappear, because we've had a few writers on here who, when we said that you're going to be on the screen on your own, and they've kind of started and then they've stumbled at the first bit because they actually feel alone when they're doing it. So it's quite nice to know that they're not actually alone. We can hear them. We're there, just not visibly there.
Yes.
Yeah, it is a weird thing. Yeah, go on. That's right.
Shall we? You mentioned reading. Should we get some more reading going? Should we get Fozzie or Melanie?
Absolutely. Yeah, I would love to hear Fozzie read.
Oh, good.
I can't wait because I've heard Fozzie read before. I am psyched for this.
Oh God, no, you're setting me up for failure. No.
Yes.
You got this, man. You got this.
Absolutely. So what we'll do, I'll say the same to you as well, Fuzzy. So you're just gonna be on the screen on your own, but we're all here. And if you're struggling, don't worry. I will pop back on the screen if you need any help or anything, or if you just want to be given a place of where to go to, whatever.
If every
so,
like
yeah.
5 or 10 seconds people could just scream to remind me you're there, that would help a lot. So I don't feel so alone.
Oh, it is a weird feeling being on the screen on your own, but you're not on your own. Actually, you're just on the screen. So
Okay.
yeah. So, but if you do
So-
need anything, just say my name and I will be there.
Oh, I love that song. Question.
I was about to start singing.
I'm simply streaming from my phone. I'm using my phone, so I need to pop over to my docs. Will I disappear? Will my camera disappear when I pop over and use another app?
Yes, it will. That's fine. Why don't we all stay on the screen while you're reading, just so
Okay.
And your screen will go black. No problem at all. That's no problem. Yeah, we've
Okay.
had other guests that way.
Gotcha. I'm going to pop over to my app then and read. This is an excerpt that from a book that I'm working on called The Cartwright House. It's kind of a traditional haunted house story about a pair of siblings, a brother and a sister named Adam and Joe, who reconnect after years of not speaking to each other after a tragic accident that Adam caused to his sister when he was younger and suffering from undiagnosed mental health problems. But now, so he left the home. Joe stayed to care for her family and lived a kind of an isolated life, while Adam went off to the big city and had a life kind of like Jim's, actually. I'm thinking he was out every weekend, obviously drunk right now. So I'm going to dig in. Are we ready? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Adam walked into the house to locate his sister. He was prepared to take his mind off of his fight with Robbie by helping her restore more furniture, paint a bedroom, or even retile a bathroom. Whatever she needed that could take his mind off Robbie's accusatory tone. When he walked into the foyer, something unusual caught his attention from the corner of his eye. He looked to the right in the parlor and saw his father's coffin where it had been since he arrived at the house. Only now his father's forearm was hanging limply over the lip to his final mahogany bed. Adam stepped into the room to confirm what he was seeing. He heard of bodies making sounds and even moving after death, usually due to escaping gases from the body as it began to decompose, but not after they had been embalmed for several days. Taking small, trepidatious steps, he moved closer to the body, entranced and simultaneously repulsed by the image. Father Cartwright was in the same position as when Adam arrived 2 days prior, save his arm hanging lazily over the edge of the casket. His forearm rested upon the wooden lip with his long, bony fingers dripping toward the floor. Adam felt the need to fix the body, but froze at the concept of feeling death in his hands. Should the body twitch at his touch, he irrationally knew that his life would be over. Adam contemplated running to find his sister, who had always been more comfortable with the concept of death. He had seen her pick up dead bugs and vermin as a young girl to remove them from the house. She had also insisted on being in the room when they had to put their beloved cat to sleep after he had been found bleeding under the porch, attacked by an animal. Joe was only 10, but said she wanted her face to be the last thing Smokey saw. That day, Adam stayed home while the rest of the family bid farewell to their adopted cat, crying alone in his bedroom, much like when his mother died. A shock wave of guilt washed over him for allowing his baby sister to endure the brunt of death her entire life. Not only had she casually dealt with the passing of animals, but she had been present when their mother suddenly died from her fall, as well as staying by her father's bedside, watching him slowly waste away to the cadaverous corpse directly before Adam now. She did more than move an appendage for their father, but had nursed him and carried him to the bathroom and cleaned up his sick. Adam knew he needed to take action to become the supportive big brother his sister deserved. Without a thought, Adam swiftly extended both of his hands and took his father's wrist, grasping it tightly. Gently and delicately, Adam guided the hand back toward the coffin, intent on laying it delicately across the other on his father's chest. Before he could lift the dead weight across the solid threshold, a loud bang rang from behind him. He suddenly dropped his father's brittle hand and turned to see the door close tight just before the lights in the room went out. The long, heavy drapes were drawn since Adam arrived, causing the room and Adam himself to be fully shrouded in darkness. Adam quickly began to make his way toward the closed door in the dark, frantically feeling in front of him as he traversed the room in blackness. A stack of folding chairs standing against the wall blocked his path, and Adam hit them with a searing pain in his knee. One chair slid to the ground with a loud clatter, and Adam took a step, his foot landing on the chair, causing him to lose his balance. He attempted to maintain his stance, but fell while attempting to grab the other upright chairs for purchase, bringing those with him as he slammed on his backside against the floor. While wincing in pain from the fall, Adam was certain that his father's body had crawled out of its casket and was standing over him. He could imagine Father Cartwright looking down disapprovingly at his useless son flailing about on the ground. Before Adam could push himself to his feet, he heard whispers in the dark. A voice strained in the distance, slowly but deliberately reciting his name. The voice was subtle, but Adam recognized the angry tone. His body froze as the voice began to echo louder, inching toward him in the darkness. Suddenly, the door opened and the lights came on, illuminating a figure in the doorway. Adam reflexively covered his face with his hand, shielding it from the light and the approaching body. His voice caught in his throat, and he looked up to see Jo standing over him, looking confused. "What are you doing?" she asked, flabbergasted by the tableau she was witnessing. Adam was breathing heavily as she looked from his sister and back to the coffin. "I don't know what happened," he said, attempting to gather his thoughts. "Why is his arm like that?" Josephine asked, walking past Adam and toward her father. "It was like that when I came in. I was trying to fix it, and then the lights went out and the door shut. I don't know." He watched as Josephine casually tucked her father's hand back in its coffin and closed the lid. "There, he can't hurt you now," she said in a calm, derogatory tone. "I didn't," Adam began. "It's fine. They're coming to pick him up, so you won't have to worry. Are you okay?" She stood over him and extended her arm to help him off the ground. Adam took her hand and stood, still breathing deep. He looked to the door and the light switch beside it and back to the body. He wanted to go into detail, moment by moment, about what had just happened, but feared he would not be able to explain the sequence of events accurately in a way that did not make him sound crazier than he already looked. He could not explain it to himself, let alone his sister, who already thought he was mentally unbalanced. "I'm sorry, I just tripped," he lied. "It's fine. Are you okay, though?" "Yes, I'm fine." "Good. Come on, I need your help," she stated as she led him out of the room, holding his arm as either a sign of affection or assistance for a mentally ill family member. Adam glanced over his shoulder one last time and was positive that his father's lips were suddenly pulled into a wickedly villainous smile before the body was no longer visible. And that's it for now.
That was so good.
Yeah, thank you.
I was muted. Sorry, that was excellent. Wonderful read. Thank you. Yep.
Thank you. This was my first edit. I realize I need one thing that I really struggle with, and Jim, you seem to be fantastic at this, is writing action. Not so much like action scenes, but just movement and moving from one place to another. And that's something I always struggle with, like guiding a character even around a room and to do a thing, because it ends up sounding really repetitive to me. You know, he walked across the door, he opened the door, he went in the door, he went up the stairs, you know, that kind of thing. Oh, Jim, you're muted. I'm sorry.
Yeah, make sure everyone's unmuted. Yes.
I have exactly what you have, but with dialogue. So
interesting.
Hearing people read like you've just done there, and having people talking who sound different. I haven't got that, so I'm in awe of people who can make people sound different. That's a skill. I read my characters through and I just go, "You're all versions of me."
I was going to comment on the voices also. Fozzie, you gave both characters very unique voices. We could definitely feel them. Yes.
Oh, that's nice. I read a story that Adam wrote. I don't know if you've read it here, Adam. The battleship story. Have you read that to this crew?
I don't know.
No, you haven't read that one yet. No, you have not, and we have to hear it at some point.
It is honestly one of the best short stories I've ever read, and one of the things I loved about it was it's full of action, and by that I do mean action, like bombs exploding and people getting stabbed and moving. Excuse me, and it just flows so well. So this scene is a work in progress because, like, describing the action of being terrified and falling to the ground and just panicking in a dark room with your dead father's body in a coffin. I love the concept of it, but I'm struggling a little bit to actually get the atom in the atom. I am high, you guys. The action. I shouldn't have taken
get the atom in
the
there.
action down.
So when you're writing action, you don't have to write absolutely every nitty bitty bit of detail. If you're having a character walk from one side of the room to another, you don't have to track their route unless they're actually physically doing something in the process, or if they have thoughts that are on their mind and they just happen to find themselves at the door. We automatically assume that they have walked across the room. So the other thing is right from the five senses. So particularly with action scenes, if you're writing in terms of what things smell like, what they hear like, what they feel like to touch, things like that, it immerses you much quicker in that action, and the reader becomes much more interested in what's actually going on.
Yeah, that moment when you're clutching for the chairs and you're falling, we were all there with you. We've all fallen and tried to catch yourself on something. Everybody's done that. So yeah.
Good.
Yeah, absolutely. And also don't worry about the readers not being able to understand or be able to follow the flow of what you've written, because if you've missed out mundane actions like he walked across the room, he turned the handle, unless it's like a tense horror scene where the floorboards are creaking under each foot, that each breath he can hear through his mouth, and his head was pounding and he could hear the whooshing sound in his ears as he's walking across the floor, then it changes the dynamic of the scene. So don't worry in terms of like having to have every single bit of information in there. You don't need to.
Okay, that's good. That's very helpful.
I also think we tell ourselves stories. I think that Jem, you probably tell yourself you don't write dialogue well, and I'm sure you do. And Fozzie, I think that you're used to telling yourself that you're not writing exciting action sequences. And I think that we need to change the way we think about ourselves sometimes and be like, no, I can do. You can do this. I can write this. I can write. People sound different. I've heard people that are different. I know.
I am less confident writing dialogue.
No, and that I definitely agree with that we have strengths and I don't even want to call the other things weaknesses, just things
opportunities.
That we can improve.
Opportunities. There you go.
Yeah, strengths and opportunities. I like that. Yeah. And I think it's natural that each of us have opportunities to work on our own work, but we can't do it. I don't think that's true at all. I think that you absolutely can do it. All of us. The thing that we think we can't. Yeah. Oh my God. Yes.
Where some things come natural, though, like I think dialogue does come natural to me. I like writing interactions between people. I do struggle with action a bit, and it's a little more challenging. I get there, but it's a little more challenging.
I think that's exactly the same thing. I love description because I write poetry. I love description. I love that sense of evocation of place and things, and because I've learned over the years to trust my reader, I don't need to over describe things, and trusting the reader and not having to say, right, you need to see exactly what I see in my head, because it doesn't matter what the reader sees in their head as long as they're getting the essence and so forth. So trust the reader, and I am good with description. And because of that, because I know that's a strength, then like Adam says, then it's not that I'm not good at dialogue, it's the fact that I'm not confident with it because it's not my natural habitat. So I tend to do more description and then little passages of dialogue, and I possibly need to rework some of that to play with that and build up where I go with it.
Yeah, Adam and I have done a lot of reading together, and we read through one of my first book completely till the end, and there was one segment in it which was the big action scene, the culmination of everything that we had been building up to in this school. And it was one of the most challenging things to write. And Jim, but you talking about the maps that you write, that you draw and that you create, Adam has done the same thing, because all of this action was taking place in this one school. and it was from different perspectives. And it was one of the most challenging things I've ever done, because you have to get the timing right of when two characters might pass. And so many times when Adam and I were reading together, he would tell me, he's a fierce editor, and he was like, you don't need that. And I was like, but they went left. He's like, you don't need to know which way they went. The reader doesn't need to know that they went left. They just moved. I pictured it so well in my head.
In my professional life, I do editing, and one of my things at the moment is I've got this absolutely vast fantasy text which needs so much editing. It's fantastic, but a lot of that is this isn't needed. This isn't needed. Mm-hmm. And that discussions I'm having there is of like, we can take that out, because you're over elaborating, and it's not necessary, because you're like you said earlier on, Jules, is you're describing every single movement across that dungeon, and we don't need it. We don't need that clank there, because trust the reader.
Well, and also to have somebody walk across the room and take 13 sentences to describe that is way longer than it would actually be to walk across the room. The person has and you've dragged the person, the reader, you've dragged the reader through this arduous process of how they stepped and the way that every step sounded. Like, that's totally unnecessary.
Adam and I always call it killing your baby. You need an editor, a partner to kill your baby, because sometimes it's really challenging to do it yourself. But you need that person to say, you don't need that. Get rid of that. Throw that out.
Yes. And I mean, my mother reads my stuff and goes, oh yeah, that's good, which isn't very helpful. Right. My other half reads things, and they got so much more helpful. They don't do that. They do turn around and say, no, I don't think that bit works. And what on earth does that mean? And I think, well, if somebody's saying, what does that mean? It's not working, is it?
Right.
So, having somebody to bounce that idea, to have a look at and challenge you. And that's the thing, they can turn around and say, it's fantastic. That's great. But that's not, you have to trust that it is great. And to trust somebody that is great, they have to have told you something isn't great as well. And I'm very lucky to have that sort of in the same house.
That's good.
Awesome. Well, I wanted to ask a question. Did anybody else try to do some predictions based on Fozzie's read? Because it just bothered me that Jo was so comfortable with death, and she was always around when everybody was dying. So I'm like,
shit.
I'm like,
that's another dimension.
Don't have something to do with all these deaths.
Did you just figure out the twist of my book in like 5 minutes? Holy shit! Maybe I need to rework this.
When he opened up and the lights came on, I was like, I bet Jo is standing there.
I thought it was so fucking clever putting those little lines in.
Yes.
Yeah, Jo was there when her mom died. She pushed her off the balcony. Yeah. So
she was there when the kid died. I'm like, okay, she's so comfortable with everybody just dying.
It's like, oh, it's okay. Just go to sleep.
Exactly. Jo killed that little cat. She beat that little cat, and then she wanted to be there to watch it die. Jo is a sociopath.
Okay.
So, spoilers, everybody.
Myself, I guess that's why I can understand it.
I love spoilers in books. I love spoilers in books. It's not the same as in TV shows. I think spoilers in books are awesome. Awesome. It's important to know what's going on. I think that's
the build up. The build up.
God damn. Can I tell you too? I told Scooter that. Oh, I'm sorry, Adam. This the other day. That's weird. I'm sorry. That's how it's saved in my phone. I'm so sorry.
We're going to be using that forever now.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Hey, Adam and I have the same last name, so he's going to be Cousin Scooter to me. Hi, Cousin Scooter.
Hi.
That's how I met Adam. He went by the name Scooter when I first met him, and I had the biggest crush, not going to lie. I had the biggest crush on Scooter. So, oh God, hashtag.
Nice.
Anyway, I was telling some friends about this story and like basically giving them broad strokes and kind of beat by beat, and I told them the twist. And basically, I'm going to tell you guys all the twist as well, because so what happened was Adam was he was a paranoid
in the story.
Yes, my
Not
character
Scooter.
Adam. That's a weird
Right.
coincidence.
I'm glad you clarified that. I was thinking it was you.
Not
I
Scooter,
use
the other
Scooter.
Adam.
That's why I use Scooter, just to differentiate. So when Adam was younger, he is 2 years older than his sister Joe. He had undiagnosed mental health problems. I never actually name what they are, but he was convinced that his family was trying to murder him, and that specifically his sister was going to kill him. And he proactively decided to attack his family one night and kill them before they could hurt him. So he tried this. He ended up injuring his sister, breaking her arm, and actually cutting her neck. And then he was sent away to prison. That's when, or to a mental health facility. And then that's when he was 18, he finally left to live this wild life, everywhere else. And Joe stayed home and took care of the family. And the mother died while the son was gone. And then the father died. And that's when Adam decided to come back and reconnect with his sister. And all this weird shit starts happening. He's convinced his father's body is coming to life, and he's hearing shit, et cetera, et cetera. And then at the end, Joe ends up killing him. She stabs him in the stomach and slashes his neck, because what she's been doing is she's been trying to create a ghost in her house. She wants to open this bed and breakfast, and she wants an actual ghost there for like this haunted tourism thing. So anyway, I told this story to my friends, and like one of my friends said, "Oh, so he was psychic when he imagined her killing him." And I was like, yeah, that was totally my intent the entire time. Jesus Christ, why did I never think of that? I think I'm not a good writer, you guys. People point out stuff.
No, that's not true.
Wow,
It's not that.
The reason why this works is because it gives authors a platform to be able to do exactly what's happened this show, is share their work and have that feedback, whether it's meant or not. It's you, Melanie. And actually, it then heightens your idea of what you actually need to do and where you need to go with your writing in whatever context. And it highlights maybe things you hadn't thought of. People give you ideas, and it's a great platform. This is such a cool platform.
Yeah.
To be able to do that. Yeah,
I do think
really safe.
I need to scale back a little bit,
Yeah.
maybe
Sorry, Adam.
on the hints about Joe being a sociopath. Maybe I want to make sure they're there, but if somebody can suss it out within 4 minutes, Joe is highly sus. I'm pretty sure.
But you can space them out too. You can put them at different points in the story, so it kind of builds you up. So you kind of go back and go, wait a minute, didn't they say back on this particular thing?
Now let's mention that I've read a majority of this one also, and it starts from Joe's perspective, right?
Yeah.
And you don't get to know anything horrible. I think it started out like she was a good older sister, but
Just
something bad happened
for her ailing dad. Yeah.
Right. She's been caring for the ailing family members and stuff. So the whole time you've already set up that she's
Saint Joe.
Right, Saint Joe.
And virtuous.
Yeah. She's exhausted from all this work she's been doing with caring for people and the death and stuff. So Melanie took a piece right out of the middle of the story that I think you're putting hints in, but there's a lot of buildup in the opposite direction ahead of time before you do that, which is good.
But Melanie, I want to see a TV show where you're a little country detective, country girl detective solving mysteries.
Growing up, I did want to be a forensic scientist. That was my goal when I was growing up. But I became a teacher. So
you're still a forensic scientist.
Basically.
That is amazing that you figured out the twist, though. That's pretty amazing.
Love that.
I loved it, though.
Sorry, go ahead, Jules.
No, go on.
I was just going to say, would you like to read something now, Melanie?
Me?
Well,
Melanie, I thought you... I misheard what you said. Sorry. Go ahead,
I would love for you to read too, Jules. Yes.
No. It's fine. Melanie, go.
Okay. So y'all talking about rituals, and I was recently on the book slam Tuesday night, and one of the things that people, one of the feedback that I got from people was that I sound the same. And so that's one of the things that I want to work on is I wanted to end that ritual of me sounding the same and do something different. So Indy challenged me to read part of his book. So today I want to read part of Indy's book and see if you guys can give me some feedback on whether I squashed this ritual or if I need some more work on it. This book is What If White People Were Slaves? And Indy has started, he had started reading this chapter. This is actually chapter 2. And I'm just gonna keep talking, Jules. I
Hang
know
on a
you
second.
got it going on.
No, no, no. That wasn't me who did that. Hang on a second. Let me just remove me. I'll put you on the screen. Hang on a second.
Okay. But Indy had actually started this chapter before. It's chapter 2, and this is when Iffy has killed Yuri, the part Cocker girl, and I want to, I want to see how I can personify or embody Indy's work. So we're going to start after the murder of Yuri. The townspeople took Iffy to Daddy Okoyoke's plantation so that he would be the one to determine the proper punishment to meet. Iffy was carried on one cart as Yuri's now vacant body was wheeled on a second. When we arrived at Okoyoke plantation, I felt as if some part of the plantation had been uprooted and destroyed. The land seemed to cry out for Yuri, even though that earth itself can't actually speak. But there was a spirit that we all eerily felt that was no longer there. We entered through the fence and came to the front of the main house. First mother and second mother were the first to find Yuri's body. If you didn't know better, you would have sworn that Yuri was merely asleep in the back of that cart. They had placed her onto the cart with a reverence deserving of a Uribe daughter, even though she was part Cocker. They approached their daughter as if they were attempting to wheel her back to life, but there was no returning from where Yuri had gone. Yuri was gone. The two women walked arm in arm slowly towards the cart. They saw Yuri's hair. Their eyes fell to Yuri's beautiful face, but the inconceivable became apparent once they found the opening across her young, innocent neck. There was nothing they could do. Yuri was no more. Both instantly wailed as they fell to the ground. Each was crying almost uncontrollably, for once there was nothing that either woman could do to console the other. Their pain was equal in measure and in distribution. But then we looked up at the front door. Even though the two women were still crying, it was as if the sounds coming from their mouths were suddenly muted. I know that doesn't make any sense, but it was as if in that moment I could actually hear his heartbeat stop. Daddy Okoyoke stood there. Never in my life had I seen anything so hurtful and unforgiving. Uribe men were raised to be strong even under the most dire of circumstances. But the pain that was now gradually riddling Daddy Okoyoke's body was unlike anything that anyone could have prepared him for. Even during the crossing ceremony, as a Uribe boy becomes a Uribe man, even the storied pain that he was made to endure was a trifle compared to what everyone could sense in him at that moment. As he feebly attempted to contain himself from the shock and pain of it, at the shock and pain of it all, as he had been taught a Uribe man must, he found himself suddenly unable to breathe, instinctively grabbing his own neck to see if he too had been violated. But true to the Uribe culture, I only remember one long tear transversing Daddy Okoyoke's approached his right eye. As he approached his beloved daughter's body, he allowed that one tear, seemingly as homage to his beautiful daughter, to slowly, carefully, and meticulously course down a path made by a grievous crease that had suddenly formed on his face. That one tear trekked from his eye slowly across his strong cheekbone to the corner of the curve, meeting his lips to his chin, and finally to the earth. Daddy Okoyoke exhaled. This Cocker slave, this caveman, this white trash had destroyed the greatest joy of his life. Afterward, he turned to look upon Iffy. Iffy made this pathetic plea for forgiveness, but anyone looking into Daddy Okoyoke's eyes knew better. Daddy Okoyoke seemed to be almost speechless, yet somehow able to communicate his plan for this Cocker. Now, Daddy Okoyok was known to be a practical and reasonable man. For example, Daddy Okoyok was fully aware that Yuri had passed on to the father. He knew that there was no amount of penance that could be made by Ife that could change this or make it right. But Daddy Okoyok also knew that he would not sit right until Ife was made to pay, slowly, painfully, and dearly. Ife didn't realize it, nor would he possibly have even cared at the time, but he had consequently set a new precedent on the Okoyok plantation. Fact is, Ife was the first slave that Daddy Okoyok meted out to this type of severe punishment that he later became known for. So, the very first thing that was done was that Daddy Okoyok cut off Ife's manhood and set it to flame. But Daddy Okoyok wanted to keep him alive. He wanted this Kaka to suffer as Yuri had suffered. So he made certain that doctors were on hand to treat Ife's wound, though Ife would never see another sunrise. Once the bleeding was stopped, Ife was hung from a tree branch by his wrists. They also bound his ankles and thighs together, sort of like you do cattle. Then Daddy Okoyok had him lowered slowly, and I mean slowly, into boiling oil. Now, while Ife screamed for what felt like hours, I, for one, watched and for once reveled in his torment. And while this being performed to others would later deeply disturb me, on that particular day, I literally prayed for Ife to experience the type of torment that he would remember in the deepest bowels of hell. Ife's eyes seemed to turn white as Jacob's ghost the moment that he touched down. His hair also broke away frantically from his scalp, and the moment that it hit the ball, squirming until each strand was nothing more than a distant memory. But thankfully, Ife was made to scream until he was completely submerged, and I, for one, did not feel 1 ounce of pity for that cocker. After that day, Daddy Okoyok was never the same. He was never the same slave master. He also never allowed himself to become close to his cocker slaves again, and he became known from east to west for his cruelty toward his slaves. But in honor of Yuri, his plantation continued to flourish. In fact, Okoyok cotton became one of the more reputable and most desired cotton distributors of the time. As for second mother, she was found hanging in the barn where the field mules were kept. I don't know if she hung herself because she was just unable to endure the loss of Yuri, out of fear of Daddy Oyok taking his anger out on her as well, or both. But by the next morning, second mother was as dead as her natural daughter. First mother continued to exist, but that is about the most that you could call her life after that day. They say that she was never fully right in the head ever again. The grief associated with losing Yuri ate away at her until it eventually drove her mad. Daddy Okoyok loved her still, though, and though First Mother was basically of no use after that, he just didn't have the heart to do much else. But he made certain that she would be comfortable until the day she eventually took her own life as well, many years later. Thank you.
Girl, that was fantastic.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Did I break the ritual?
Oh, intense and beautiful. I love
Thank you.
I'm sorry, whose work was that you read? You read somebody else?
That was the work of the great Dr. Indy Brennan.
Oh my goodness. It reminded me of, it sounded like a little girl retelling a story about her childhood, which made it so much more evocative.
And this is actually Nakia's story. And Nakia is an old lady now, and she is recounting what happened to her as a young girl.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that.
Thank you.
You've got a really good description.
Yeah. The description. Speaking of action sequences, how about putting all that action into a single tear? The way it moved from the corner of the eye down the curve of the cheek, hit the edge of his mouth, down it, like that was an action sequence about a teardrop. I mean, yeah, amazing writing.
Powerful.
And I don't know what you needed to work on with your voice. Your voice sounded amazing. I don't know what that was about.
Well, I think most from what I gathered, normally I have like a sultry voice, I guess they say. Reese, you were on that Tuesday night, right?
Mhm.
So the feedback was that all my readings sound the same, and I was like, okay. So I wanted to challenge myself to see if I could read something different because all of my reading comes from my pain in my book. So of course it's going to sound the same because it's all coming from the same general pain. But I got his book and read because it's a totally different genre, and I just want to see if it sounds different, if my voice actually projects differently.
Provocative. That
You
was a
read
good
really
word,
well.
Fozzie.
Yeah, yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. It's
Oh,
It's the
speaking of,
talking
there he is.
head.
Hi,
Hi,
Charlie.
Charlie.
I have to say this. Melanie is, as far as a writer and a reader, she's amazing.
Mhm.
Whether it's her piece or other pieces that she's read, it's just amazing. The thing about today, Melanie is a natural Southern belle.
Hmm.
And if you're not I know that Jules and I guess Jim, you all are not from the States, but we have I'm sure you all are familiar with the very unique dialects spread across the country. Melanie's from Mississippi. And honestly, Melanie, that was a fantastic read.
Oh.
Because it personified or brought to life that southern thing that me, Reese, you that we're familiar with down in the South.
Mhm.
That was a fantastic read, absolutely fantastic read. I love the fact that you took on the challenge because even though it's still your voice, we all know the voice. The accent, the dialect, it was all there. And so, and what's interesting was what Fozzie said. That's what was interesting because he said it sounded like a young girl, an older woman telling an account of when she was younger. That is exactly what it is. I read that piece and I've never heard anybody say that. But when you read it, it's interesting how he instantly picked that up.
Yeah.
Which is the beauty and talent in your voice. I can't unfortunately speak like you, but it was fantastic. It was fantastic. I mean, I honestly, and I was so enamored by as you read. I was literally riveted to every word you were saying. Yeah, I might have written it, but I mean, I was just blown away by every word that you were saying. I literally was hanging on every word that you said.
It's
Wow.
different when you get that outside perspective.
Yeah. And like I said, it was, and I didn't want to. Alex, I was trying to sit back, and Jules knew I was in here, but I wanted to kind of sit back and observe more than anything else. But that was a beautiful read, absolutely beautiful read.
Well, thank you. That's an honor for me coming from the author who wrote it to know that you enjoyed listening to me read it and recognize the difference in it. I just wanted to challenge myself to see if I can be different and read or recite from a different genre, not dealing with my own pain and just dealing with something outside of what I normally write. So thank you.
No,
And it could be felt too. It could be felt in the way that you read. You could feel the emotions in the scene. And I'm just gonna put it out there, Andy. I think you found somebody to read for one of your parts.
It's. I mean, honestly, it was a fantastic piece. Even and what was so interesting again, going back to Fozzie, is that it's an old woman reading it, and you don't have the voice of an older woman, but the way that you read it comes across. It's very clear that, and that's part of that Southern dialect. it comes across like, yeah, I might be a well-spoken woman, but it still sounded like an older woman. So I really do appreciate it. It was great.
And you know, the also this goes to the writing and the reading, how like somewhat detached you were from it. It wasn't reacting to these horrible things that you saw.
Mhm.
It was basically recounting them
Yeah.
as fact. It's still, you could tell it's still part of this narrator's story and their life and their trauma, but they're able to talk about it now, and it's very matter of fact when you're like, yeah, he was hogtied and they just beat the shit out of him, and like it's not reacting as if in your first person. You're years removed from this, but it's still inside. I love that.
I listen to huge numbers of audiobooks at work because I work on my own, put my headphones in, work through audiobooks on. I could quite cheerfully have carried on listening to that. It was
Absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah, Indy gave me the nickname The Voice, so
That's right. He's
It is the
Charlie,
perfect
so it's okay.
Charlie, yeah, Charlie.
He's Charlie, so it's fine.
What
Charlie,
did you think, Reese? I
we
mean,
got
what,
another
I'm sorry.
nickname.
What did you think, Jules?
Oh, I love. Well, so twofold. I think Melanie, you read that beautifully. You put a lot of depth on the character and made the character be brought to life in terms of how they felt about the horrors that they'd experienced, and the writing itself. I find your writing really descriptive, as in there's lots of detail there, but it's not waffly detail. It's very action focused detail, but enables you to build empathy with the protagonist, whilst also you're almost experiencing the same emotions as the protagonist, and you're feeling what the protagonist is feeling, even though they are detached from it because it's happened previously in their life. But you're able to sort of feel the pain that they've gone through. And that's that I think in part is to both the writing as well as the reading. It comes together really nicely. So yeah, very good, both of you.
Jules, to that point, I was very there's has anybody seen? I assume everybody's seen that movie Signs, the M. Night Shyamalan movie, and I swear this is going someplace. But there's that scene where the brother is watching TV in the closet, and they see the birthday party in Mexico, and the alien walks across, and it scares everybody. I think about that scene all the time because that scene terrified me, and I'm so removed from the action of it. Like not only it's a character in a closet watching TV of a report that happened days ago in Mexico. You're not even up close to this event, and it's still really terrifying. And this was very moving because it's somebody simply recounting their memories of years gone by. I don't know the exact years, but like 80 years, and very, very matter of fact. But you can still feel the visceral pain, the residual pain that they feel telling this story and watching their father cry for the first time and having their mother die. So it was good. It was very removed, but still visceral. I thought that was beautiful.
Yeah, this was like in the 1800s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Jules, I will step back out. I just had to say something to Melanie. I didn't even know you were reading it today. I know we had talked about it, and I just happened to jump in. But no, great read. Great read.
I had gone to see Avatar, and it just spiked my creativity. So I was like, yeah, let me jump on here.
We definitely need to talk.
There's the book cover. There's the book cover. Jules has it right there.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
We're gonna have some seriously huge bookshelves before
yeah.
2023. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Yeah. I have bookshelves everywhere.
They're all over the house, and a lot of them are doubled up now. And there's a stack behind the Christmas tree, which is the to be read, which is about 25 books now. Only the bigger house.
Okay, I want to ask a question to all of you. Just bringing it back to sort of like the themes of rituals and festivals. The question's going to go to all of you. So think about either a book that you've read or something that you've written, and I just want to think about what is your most poignant or most interesting or most fun or whatever sequence that you have in your writing that would kind of fit with the festive spirit as we near the end of the show? I'll give you all a moment to think about it, because I know.
I'll jump in. I've got one already.
Go
Yeah,
for it.
I know exactly what, because this is what I was going to talk about. My festival that I was going to read from, which I don't need to. I'm totally happy with that. In my new book, The Mantis Variant, it's the Winter Solstice Festival. They have I do a lot of world building in my books, a lot of it, and so this part of the city is it's an old airstrip, and it gets really hot during the summer, so nobody goes there. But during the winter, they have these big festivals there because it's nice. And so that's what one of my main characters arrives at the city on this winter festival, and it's part farmers market. There are stalls and vendors with people selling their wares, hawking their wares. But there's also entertainment. There's music being played. There are not magicians, but people performing like tricks, acrobatics, and stuff like that. There's all sorts of things going on, and it's all about the beginning of winter. Because the place I've chosen to make this is sort of southern in the world. It doesn't get super cold, but people are all bundled up in their like wintry best, and they're out like just enjoying the like cooler weather because it doesn't ever really get freezing temperatures in the city. It doesn't ever really snow, but they like to celebrate the beginning of something a little bit nicer than the scorching heat of the summer and the brutal sun that's always beating down. So yeah, that's how one of my main characters is introduced to the city. So that's what I wanted to talk about.
I love that.
I love that. I think what I might do is just go around in a circle. It might be a bit easier. So if we should go clockwise, but I'll skip myself out. So Reese, tell us about a ritual that happens in one of your bits and pieces that you've written.
Now that we've really talked through the whole process, I'm thinking about the drinking game. I have multiple games within the first novel. So you don't just get the introductory game where they're like, okay, we're just getting to know each other, so we're going to kind of sneak in little things here and there. You really get in depth with these different conversations that are drawn from those different games and those gatherings. So it's not so much about the game as it is about the connection between the characters and how their friendship develops. So every time they have something to talk about, they come together and they have their fun, they get their drinks and their little snacks and things like that. But that's their ritual. That's the way that they gather and express themselves to one another and get to know each other better. So I think that's probably one of the biggest things that appears multiple times. And I even threw it in the second book. So you get a chance to kind of play back to the very beginning. Right. Listen, look, fingers crossed it will be summer of 2023. Definitely 2023. I am shooting for 2023. Cover is already done. So we're gonna get this going.
Excellent. All right, Jam, what about you?
I struggled. I'm going to go into my novel. The thing is that sequence work, but I don't really do that many things. I've never written about Christmas. I've never done any of that. But in the novel, I've actually got sort of almost the last chapter. I've got great big gaps beforehand, but the last chapter, two of the characters is Clem and Sam, and it's not really a romance, but there is a romance between them, and that comes to fruition in a cave on Midsummer Night's Eve day, overnight anyway, camping out in the hills of Yorkshire, watching the sunrise on Midsummer's morning, where they have a moment. So we finish on quite a moment with them, and that.
Well, now we're all curious.
What's that?
Right?
Now we're all curious about that moment.
The Yorkshire Dales are absolutely stunning. They are beautiful. So yeah.
So they go up. It's been a tradition for Sam for years, going up on Midsummer Night with friends and things, and camping out in this cave and watching the sun come up. and Clem's invited along for the first time, and their on-off sort of flirtation on the very last page becomes sort of a thing. So I'm very keen on happy endings. Doesn't matter what's gone before. I like a happy ending. My mother disagrees. She wants everyone to die at the end.
So
Oh
do we.
no, that's so sad.
I don't know if it's the
I
same
mean,
kind of happy endings that you're talking about, though.
I kill everyone.
And I had to
you
say
can
it.
you can have so much chaos going on before, but I like the end to be. Oh, yeah, I'm satisfied with that.
Yes, Adam and I had a long talk
Excellent.
about this recently. I don't like nihilistic endings. I like everything, like they've gone through so much shit, but I want there to be a payoff. I want a happy ending in everything I read.
I don't like ones where it leaves it open ended, where you have to just like make it up yourself. I find that really frustrating because it's just like, but that doesn't help me understand why I've even read this. Because like, what, you know, if I have to make up the ending myself, then I'm
Although it does
These existential things.
it does lead to
Or
interesting
ones that are
conversations.
really bad.
Because if you've got a sort of a pessimist who's read it, like my mum, and me, or an optimist, then you're having sort of hour-long conversations about no, they all die at the end, or no, they didn't, because you've interpreted it so differently.
Yeah. I suppose there is a creative purpose to that, but I think that, like with all genres, there are particular people who really like go to those ones because they love that style, or those authors or readers who are just like, oh, I like it all to kind of like have an ending, so at least I've got closure at the end, even if it's not necessarily like super happy.
In life, you don't get closure at the end of everything because life carries on. But a book's not life. A book is a snapshot, and it's a distillation, and you put more into it than necessarily you would get in a real life because you're telling a story. So I think that you need to have that closure personally, and
unless it's left open for the next.
Sure.
I have cliffhangers like crazy. I'm not even going to pretend.
I love a cliffhanger.
I mean, in what I've got planned, I've got a whole multitude of storylines which could carry on into a whole multitude of other things. But that particular storyline comes to that point there.
Right.
And then,
just like, let's see, Avatar.
There's other ones which are more open ended and things, but I think you've got to have the plot lines tied up, even if the character has got so many other questions to carry on into another book or another sequence and things. The plot you've been following through needs to have a logical conclusion. That might not be them getting together in the cave and having a wild snog as the sun comes up, but I mean that's for me. I'm taking it that way. I also think if you're writing something that's queer, I think it's really important that you have some happy endings in there as well. I think there's so many things which are queer narratives which rely on some tragedy, some terrible things, and I think that we need some happy queer stories as well.
Yeah, we owe it to ourselves.
Yeah, but I was going to say, just like Avatar, I've been waiting, 14 years, 13 years?
Right.
But this one, that's a cliffhanger, because I was like, in 2009, when the movie showed, I said, okay, I'm ready for the sequel. Well, I had to wait 13 years, and guess what? I'll wait another 13 for the next one, because I know it's got to be
No, he's in the process of doing it now. It should come out in the next couple of years, he reckons.
I pray it does. I don't know if I can hang on another 13 years, but I'm gonna try.
Well, assuming I finish mine over the next 12 months, then if people read it, I'm going to have to write the second one a damn sight quicker than this 25 years, because otherwise I'm going to be reading Patrick Rothfuss.
He's my favorite author. You just named my favorite author.
I love Patrick Rothfuss.
I love Patrick Rothfuss.
Yeah,
brilliant. Oh, I can't believe we're talking about him right now. He's okay. Anyway, so what you were saying about queer representation a minute ago, Jem, my book is, and I think Fozzie and I have talked about it before, the idea of queer norm, where the whole world that you've created, no queer person needs to overcome anything for their queerness. And that's how I've written my book, that they're just the way they are. I've got transgender people, I've got drag queens, I've got non-binary people, and nobody has to deal with any type of homophobic, broad spectrum hatred in any way, shape, or form in my world. I decided that didn't even exist in my world. Yeah.
Mine's not in another world. It's in a fictional town in England, somewhere on the East Coast, and over the years it's moved. It was in Yorkshire, then it was in East Anglia, and now it's sort of somewhere.
Gotcha.
Interpret it as you will. I trust my reader. Interpret it.
Yeah.
And mine doesn't have overt or really covert homophobia or anything like that in there. They live in this world, and they have other things to overcome. There's legacy there. So Mr. Heron, who I mentioned earlier, his partner many moons ago died from HIV/AIDS, and he's still dealing with that now. So those things are there. It's the same as Spider and their partner. It's a mixed race partnership, and they've had problems from her family and their family, and so there are legacy things there, but it's not actually within the narrative. So they've dealt with that, and now they're living their lives.
Cool.
Excellent. All right, Melanie, what about you?
Well, Jules, my stuff, I was trying to think. Ritual, I don't think any of mine follow any particular ritual or festive event, because mine were written from a place of pain. But if I had to name one, I think the love poems in my poetry book, they follow the ritual of a man liking a woman and a woman liking a man, and they not letting each other know until it just happens to happen. And this happens so often in
the slow burn.
Yeah, you just kind of keep, that little cat and mouse game of going back and forth trying to court each other without courting. So, but who knows? On my next go round, I might throw some parties in there since I've done a new leaf.
What about you, Fozzie? Uh-oh, something happened. Everything okay? I've got a glitch.
I had a glitch a second ago as well. Fozzie's frozen.
Oh, did I lose everybody?
Oh, you're back. You're back. Okay. We lost you
good.
entirely. Didn't hear a word you said. Jem, you gotta go. So, we loved having you. Thank you, Jem. If you need to take off.
Bye, Jem.
Indeed. Absolutely. Thanks for having me on. I really enjoyed it.
Stay in touch. Stay in touch with us.
Will do.
Okay, go ahead, Fozzie. Sorry.
Yeah, so one thing that I've written, there's the second book that I'm still working on and editing is called The Frogmen of Loveland, and it's about this urban legend set in Loveland, Ohio, about these like anthropomorphic frogmen that people have claimed to have witnessed. It's kind of their version of Bigfoot. They're these big, huge frogmen that allegedly roam the ponds there. So I wrote a book about that, and it's set in a community, what do you call them, HOA community. And several times I have the characters go to their HOA meeting, this monthly HOA meeting. And I had so much fun writing that, because there's some people who love it and use it as a chance to gossip. There's some people who use it just to reconnect with their friends. There's other people that are angry they have to be there. So it's this ritual that brings people together. And it's very much like a family gathering, like a Christmas or a holiday where families get together, where some people are happy to be there, other people hate other people, and they just kind of snipe and talk about each other behind each other's back. But it was fun. It was writing a family scene with all these disparate people who aren't actually related, but are thrust together to be together. So that was fun to write.
That's cool.
Isn't it interesting how we even if they're like relatively minor rituals, we all have them in one way or another. And embedding those in our characters is quite interesting, because it brings the characters to life and makes them realistic and makes us want to find out more about them and their world. That's cool.
Yeah.
So I'm going to end the show because the end of the show, believe it or not. But it has been amazing. I really loved having you on, Fozzie. I've enjoyed Jem as well. And having Melanie here as well is also just amazing. So you know,
Yeah,
thank you
this was
so
great,
much.
you guys.
You're so welcome. And you're welcome to be a returning author as well. We would love to have you
Look
back
who's
on.
back.
So, yeah.
Certainly. I
Yeah, we
think my
enjoyed having
phone
you.
is actually dying. I want to say goodbye before it does. It's dipping out now. So thank
It's
you guys for
fine.
having me.
You're
I'm
welcome. We're
gonna
going to
bail.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, Fuzzy.
Thank you guys.